Hello, welcome to Atheist Torah Study, my informal personal exploration of the Jewish Torah from the perspective of an atheist. Today is Parsha Achrei Mot Kedoshim. It's a double Parsha, Achrei Mot and Kedoshim. And so why don't we just dump, why don't we just jump right into the text and any commentary that I have will go into the text. There's a lot here. I would love to read as much of this as possible today because it's a fascinating text. It's one of my favorites. So this is the 29th Parsha, 29th and 30th Parshas in the Parsha cycle. We start with Aaron. Basically, God's just murdered his sons, and now he's being told to offer a sacrifice to God. So that's how it starts, and then it just kind of goes downhill from there. There's lots of sex in this particular section of the Torah. There's lots of sex, all kinds of forbidden sex, everything that you want to do in an S&M club is here. There's the Holiness Code. There's the commandment to not. There's the commandment to love a stranger. Um, to treat a stranger with kindness, to love your neighbor as yourself. Those are good commandments. There's the mythical Moloch, which is the neighboring tribe that makes animal sacrifice. The only problem is it isn't really true. And there's lots of obsession with female menstrual cycles. So that's what's in this Torah portion. It's a lot. And just like in the last Torah portion that I commented on, there's a couple of really key themes here to me. The first key theme is that this is, once again, it's about the body. The body, both in terms of its function, its placement in the three-dimensional world, its placement within culture, within society, and how do you regulate the body? So that's to me one of the most important parts of this parsha. The other part of the parsha that is something that I talked about last week too was the concept of disgust. There's a lot in this particular part of the Torah that is considered by most people to be disgusting. And the reason that it's disgusting is because it's complicated, and we'll get into some of those reasons. They have to do with incest taboos. They have to do with the preservation of the line into the next generation with the most optimal members of the species going forward. So there's all kinds of stuff in here, and it'll be fun. Well, I'm really going to try to read through a lot of this. So here it goes. Let's just get started. Okay, Achrei Mot. By the way, this passage we're about to read is the passage that Jews read on Yom Kippur, and which is the Jewish Day of Atonement. And I will talk about that, and I'll talk about what it means. And I'll talk about how I look at it as an atheist. Achrei Mot. Oh, excuse me. God spoke to Moses after the death of the two sons of Aaron, who died when they drew too close to God's presence. God said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron that he is not to come at will into the shrine behind the curtain, in front of the cover that is upon the ark, lest he die, for I appear in the cloud directly over the cover. The only thus only shall Aaron enter the shrine with a bowl for the hurt offering and purgation for and sorry, with the bull of the herd for a purgation offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall be dressed in sacred linen tunic, with linen breeches next to his flesh. He shall be girt with a linen sash. He shall wear a linen turban. They are sacred vestals. He shall bathe in water and put them on. And from the Israelite community, he shall take 2 he-goats for a purgation offering, and a ram for a burnt offering. Aaron is to offer his own bull of purgation to make expiation for himself and for his household. Aaron shall take the 2 he-goats and let them stand before God at the entrance of the tent of meeting. He shall place lots upon the 2 goats, one marked for God and the other marked for Azazel. Aaron shall bring forward the goat designated by lot for God, which he is to offer a purgation offering, while the goat designated by lot for Azazel shall be left standing alive before God to make expiation with it now and send it off to the wilderness for Azazel. Aaron shall then offer his bull of purgation offering to make expiation for himself and his household. He shall slaughter the bull of purgation offering. And he shall take a pan full of glowing coals, scooped from the altar before God, and 2 handfuls of finely grounded aromatic incense, and bring this behind the curtain. He shall put the incense on the fire before God, so that the cloud from the incense screens the cover that is over the ark of the pact, lest he die. He shall take some blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his finger over the cover on the east side, and in front of the cover he shall sprinkle some blood with his fingers like so. He shall then slaughter the people's goat of purgation offering, bringing its blood behind the curtain, and do with the blood as he has done with the blood of the bull. He shall sprinkle it over the cover and in front of the cover. He shall purge the shrine of the impurity and transgressions of the Israelites. Whatever their sins, he shall do the same for the tent of meeting, which abides within the midst of their iniquity. When he goes to make expiation in the shrine, nobody else shall be in the tent of meeting until he comes out. When he has made expiation for himself and his household, and for the whole congregation of Israel, he shall go out to the altar before God and purge it. He shall take some of the blood in the bull and the goat and apply the blood of each horns of the altar. And the rest of the blood he shall sprinkle on it with his finger 7 times. He shall purify it of the defilement of the Israelites and consecrate it. When he had finished purging the shrine, the tent of meeting, and the live goats shall be brought forward. This is my favorite part. Aaron shall lay both of his hands upon the live goat and confess over it all the iniquities and transgressions of the Israelites, whatever their sin, putting them on the head of the goat, and it shall be sent off to the wilderness through a designated agent. This goat shall carry on it all of the iniquities to an inaccessible region, and the ground shall be set free in the wilderness. Aaron shall go into the tent of meeting, take off the linen vestments. He shall bathe in the water in the holy precinct and put on his vestments. Then he shall come out and offer his burnt offerings and offering the Kabbalah. Sorry, I'm getting tired. let's stop there for a minute. Okay. So we're talking here about we're talking about Aaron going into the tent of meeting, and well, so first of all, this never really happened. There's nothing in this story that's true. This is a ritualized this is a storytelling about a ritualized experience that reflects a ritualized experience in no a ritualized symbolic experience. So the idea here is that there's and so because it's not real. I mean, it's propaganda, and there's places later in the Parsha where it's propaganda. Maybe I should talk about some of those now because I don't know if I'm going to get to much of this text. It's a really good text, and there's a lot to it. So I want to say first of all that Achrei Mot Kedoshim, um, it treats so it has it has 73 mitzvot. And these mitzvot are presented as the will of God. So basically, God wants you to do or to not to do certain things. And the writers make it very clear in their text that they intend for people who are free to follow these rules about how you're supposed to go shopping and get food and um, hold it, that doesn't make sense. Sorry, I'm just tired. Um, what I'm trying to say is that this is the telling of a story that didn't really happen. And by telling a story that didn't really happen, it's really trying to tell the reader about how they're supposed to interpret the text in a way that makes sense to them. So they're telling a story in order to create a sense of meaning. And they have to create these imaginary characters and these imaginary experiences as a way of identifying with the text. So that's the first thing that I wanted to say about the text. Um, Again, as I mentioned earlier, too, this is the centralized text for Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and it's really interesting. So I listened to some really interesting commentary on this ritual today. And so one of the things that I read about was that or I listened to was that so it went into this complicated hierarchy of these fallen angels, basically. It talked about this idea that there's fallen angels, and there's other place in the text where it mentions these angels. There was a place in the text where it said that the sons of God wanted to have sex with the daughters of earth and in Genesis, and then something happened. I can't remember what. Anyways, so there's this character Azazel. Now I've always liked Azazel because, well, first of all, because I remember in the Smurfs, which was this cartoon series I watched when I was a kid, the cat was named Azazel. And I always thought that was a great name for a cat. So Um, but anyways, apparently, so this is the first time I heard this today was that the character of Azazel was basically like the evil inclination, or it was, um, well, the evil inclination. That's a good way to put it. It was also this fallen angel who basically wanted to do the devil's work. Is also what Azazel is seen as. So, but the ritual of Yom Kippur, it's a very nice ritual. I mean, I have to admit I enjoy the ritual. I mean, when I do it, even though I am an atheist, but I still do the ritual just because Oh, I don't know. I guess just because that's what everybody's doing. Um, and while the ritual is going on, I think at its best, the ritual should be a way of kind of spending the day focusing on, it's like this. I mean, there are these concepts that we have. A lot of the concepts we get from the Greeks. We don't necessarily get them directly from the Torah, even though there's a lot of it in the Torah, but there's some very specific ideas about what certain kinds of behaviors mean. And what the Torah is trying to do here is it's trying to get you to think about both collective and individual behaviors and where they can cause harm, and basically trying to do better next year. So there isn't, I mean, at least in the modern liberal Jewish tradition of understanding the text, it doesn't really hold you responsible that you've sinned for something in the past. It doesn't hold you somehow cosmically accountable. Not that the text ever really did. I mean, the text never really was about that. And that's one of the things that makes the text so different from Christianity, because Christianity, like, they just love to pile on the idea of original sin and that you're always wrong and that you can't trust yourself because you're a body and your body is corrupt and evil and prone to wickedness. I mean, this text goes in a really different kind of way. This text says, to be holy because I am holy. And that's a nice line. And then it also has treat the stranger with kindness, for you once were strangers in Egypt. And a lot of this stuff just isn't really true, or there isn't much evidence for it. I mean, there's really not a lot of evidence that people were slaves in Egypt and that somehow they had this magical transformative experience that made them not slaves anymore. And now you're supposed to um, be grateful for the fact that you're not a slave, even though you never really were a slave. I mean, not that there weren't slaves then, because there definitely was slavery. Slavery was, and I've covered the topic of slavery before, but slavery was practiced by maybe 10 to 15% of cultures at the time. And but anyways, so the ritual here of Yom Kippur is about, at its best, it's about trying to be a better person and spending the day getting to think about all of the failings that we have, all of the times that we've kind of cheated or done things that weren't the most ethical. So it has this undercurrent of ethics that is foundational to how the text is understood by modern liberal Judaism. But you can't ignore the rest of the text. I mean, the rest of the text is what makes so many people atheists. I mean, they look at parts of this text and they just think, oh, I'm just going to be an atheist now. There's no way I'm dealing with that stuff because it talks about bestiality and, sleeping with animals, and it gets very specific about bestiality. And then, of course, it also condemns homosexuality. Very clearly, it condemns homosexuality. It says, a man shall not lie with another man as he lies with a woman. And this is just like so super problematic. I mean, I could literally spend 8 blocks talking about this. Like, a block is like, I mean, like walking around the block. I could spend as much time as it takes me to walk around 8 blocks just talking about just that problem. Now, there's been a lot of reinterpretation of it over the years, and so some of the reinterpretation is purely textual, it's based on the idea that this text means that and that text means that. And so maybe the meaning of the line isn't quite as bad as it seems. But I don't really buy that. I mean, I think it's a pretty bad line. And I think it was put there on purpose. And so for me, I think the trick is trying to understand why this was put there in the first place. And like with so much of Torah, I mean, you could never really know why somebody put something in the Torah. All you can do at your best is just kind of make an educated guess based on what you know. So my theory is that this is in the text because there was some practice of homosexuality that was happening in a nearby culture, or it was happening in the same town that you lived in. I mean, I think that this is kind of the precursor to what a lot of us are expecting in the atheist community. I mean, we're expecting this really incredible kind of backlash against atheism and I mean against LGBTQIA2S plus identity, against queer identity. And I think there's a strong, a really strong feeling within some aspects of the queer community that um, this passage is really damaging to the identity and the progress of queer people. Because unfortunately, it's one of those lines that gets picked up over and over again by fundamentalists and by fascists and by basically anyone who wants to control women's reproductive health cycles, women's place within institutions, women's roles in caregiving. So all of that is kind of ignored in this conversation. So oh, yeah, there's more. I have a lot to say about this Parsha. So this Azazel character, to me, Azazel just means the wilderness. And in Jewish tradition, the wilderness is actually some place where Jews go to find God. So, I mean, for me as an atheist, the wilderness is someplace where I go to find peace of mind. And it's someplace where I go to experience awe and reverence because, especially in the state that I live in, Oregon, the wilderness is so compelling. I mean, it's just such an incredible landscape. It's very, very sparse. It's like it's about 100 miles between towns. And there's tanks where, I mean, there's not tanks. Never mind. Again, I'm sleepy. But the wilderness is a place of finding real beauty and just a really awesome experience. I mean, I love the wilderness, and here the wilderness is held up as something deeply sacred. I don't think that that's how it's really meant in the ritual, because in the ritual, basically, there's so here's what the story reads us, and this is what we read on Yom Kippur. So in the story, there's two goats, and one of the goats is going to get slaughtered, just like so many animals in the Torah get slaughtered. So one animal is going to get slaughtered, and the other one is going to get a free pass out of here. And so they're going to be sent out into the wilderness. But before they go in the wilderness, Aaron puts his hand on the goat and he transfers, through magic, all of the sins of the entire community onto the goat. And then the goat goes wandering off into the wilderness, presumably to die, I guess. But I think it wasn't the best choice, this story wasn't the best. They weren't all the best choice. Like, for one thing, I think it would make more sense to send another animal besides a goat. I mean, goats are just so cute and they're so adorable and lovable. And so, I wouldn't want to think of that happening to a goat. Um, so I'm not sure what a good substitute animal is. Maybe a rat. I don't know, a rat might not be a bad choice. Maybe send the rat out into the wilderness. But anyways, so from an atheist perspective, this idea that there's some sort of collective responsibility for things, and if you don't do what's the collective responsibility, then somehow you're sinning, or you're not doing as much as you could be doing, ethically, or within your own value system. So, I mean, I think that's all I'm going to say on that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in this section that we're either about to read or that we haven't read yet, but we're going to get to. I talked about loving the stranger. The ironic thing about the loving the stranger section of this parsha is that um, Israel is not doing that at all right now. I mean, Israel is not loving the stranger or treating the stranger in your land with respect or anything like that. I mean, instead, what Israel is doing is mass murdering an entire country full of people. Gaza, 2.2 million people. It was 2.2 million. Now who knows how many people are there. But the Torah doesn't seem to acknowledge certain kinds of violence and certain kinds of suffering. It only acknowledges violence and suffering when it comes into some sort of direct meaning for the people there. And that's not necessarily what this is about. I mean, this is about something much more complicated than that. So there's really a lot to think about. And there's a lot to unpack. But I still enjoy Yom Kippur. I mean, if nothing else, I just enjoy it because it's kind of a challenge. It's like you don't get to eat all day. So you have to stop eating around 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and you can't eat. You're, I mean, ideally, you're not supposed to eat or drink anything all day. And so it's supposed to be kind of like a little tiny experience of death, just like the title of the Parsha, Achrei Mot. So it's supposed to be kind of like this really small experience of death. And it's supposed to teach you to be a good and kind person. So that's the idea. Um, I don't know if the text really actually does that in reality. I mean, I've been around a lot of these groups for a long time, and I don't know if they necessarily condition behavior or like affect behavior. I mean, I think that there are some kinds of people who are more likely to say they're sorry, to acknowledge wrongdoing, to kind of be aware of some of these collective needs of the group. And then there's other people who just are kind of oblivious and they don't really get it. And it doesn't mean that they've sinned or that they're doing anything wrong. It just means that's just their personality type. We seem to be born with a wide range of personality types, and there's some that are really appropriate for this moment right here. Anyway, so let's read some more. There's a lot more I could talk about, but I think I've hit on at least some of the things I wanted to get to. So I am on what verse is this? I can't tell. Aaron shall go into the tent of meeting, take off the linen vestments that he put on when he entered the shrine, and leave them there. He shall bathe in water in the holy precinct and put on his vestments. Then he shall come out and offer his burnt offering, the burnt offering of the people, making expiation for himself and for the people. The fat of the purgation offering he shall turn into smoke on the altar. The one who set the Azazel goat free shall wash their clothes and bathe in water, and after that may re-enter the camp. The basis of the bull of purgation offering and the goat of purgation offering, whose blood was brought to purge the shrine, shall be taken out of the camp, and their hides, flesh, and dung shall be consumed in fire. The one who burned them shall wash their clothes and bathe in water, and after that may re-enter the camp. And this shall be to you a law for all time. So again, there's the you tell somebody that it's a law for all time, and so you're basically kind of indoctrinating them into the system through this kind of language, where you're basically saying that this happens, this is a law for all time. Even though I just made it up right now, it's a law for all time. So you got to do it. And that's one way of complying um, obedience to an authority. In this case, it's the lawn. Oh no, it's never mind. Again, I am tired. Oh, and it also says that the law applies to people who live in your land who don't even practice your religion. They still have to do the official thing. So it tells you, again, I think what those Hasmoneans were really interested in, they were really interested in controlling the population through the text. And they really incorporated as much of that as they could into the text. For on this day of atonement shall be made for you to purify all of your sins. It shall be a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you shall practice self-denial. It is a law for all time. So there is another mitzvot. This is the mitzvot on Shabbat, and it talks about what the consequences are if you miss fulfilling your mitzvot on Shabbat. So, let's see. I'm just trying to find. I'm going to put this on pause for just a minute. Hi, I'm back. So we were in the middle of talking about Yom Kippur, and um, there's some other parts of Parsha Achrei Mot Kedoshim I want to make sure to touch on before I do some more reading. I want to talk about the role of propaganda in a text because here, the text spends a great deal of time talking about this mythical character named Moloch, and it uses Moloch as a placeholder for every abhorrent thing you could think of, which apparently these people have thought of. Now, nowadays in modernity, we can think of a lot more horrible things because those things have been recorded within the press and the media and they've been recirculated. I mean, the real things people have done. And then, um, and then there's also the fictions that people have made up that also circulate. Basically all the terrible things people can do. So this is, it's kind of a horror story. Like part of this is kind of a horror story. It's just like imagine the horror, the absolute horror of the things that are unclean. And these are the kinds of things that Moloch likes. Moloch likes like if you want to be like the pagans and the neighboring culture that worships the devil, then you will have sex with a menstruating woman. So that's one of them. And then also you'll have sex with an animal. That's another one. And then, of course, you might have sex with somebody of the same gender as you. And that's, incredibly abhorrent. Um, so those are all kind of put together into the same category. And basically, the other thing that Moloch does is Moloch likes to sacrifice children. So, if you want to be unclean and unfit for ritual life, then you'll have sex with animals, you'll sacrifice your children by murdering them to the god, or you'll have sex with a menstruating woman. So these are some of the things that the text places really strong religious prohibitions on. The only problem is that there was never any Moloch. There's really no evidence that there was a Moloch, no god named Moloch. Can we find in the archaeological record? No adjacent countries that were worshiping a Moloch. It seems to be made up. And so I submit to you that when it's like right now, transgender people are going through this kind of living American nightmare, where basically everybody on television is being told in the newspapers and by the president, by state legislators, and by followers of um, I'm not going to say his name, followers of that dead guy, that uh, transgender women are going into the bathrooms and they're committing all kinds of hairy carry. They're raping women and they're exposing themselves and they're threatening women and they want to like look at women's skirts and who knows what they want to do. They're perverts basically. And they're doing all the only thing is that all of this propaganda that the right wing is putting out about transgender women is almost completely false. I mean, almost all of it is completely fake. And the data shows that transgender women are very safe to be in a bathroom with. The only person that's unsafe in a bathroom is really a transgender woman, because transgender women, I mean, I've seen stories. I've actually we've done stories about transgender women who have used the bathroom and then gotten severely beaten, to the point where they have like lifelong medical conditions because of the beatings they received when they used the bathroom. But anyways, in spite of the fact that this is actually what's happening to transgender women, our culture has gone on the rampage against transgender women. And it's gotten so extreme that in the state of Idaho, if a transgender woman goes to use the bathroom, on the second time that she uses the bathroom, I sometimes I'll use the bathroom twice in the same morning. The second time that she goes to use the bathroom, she could be sentenced to 5 years in prison for using the bathroom. And if she does it more than four times, there's lots of times. I mean, I might use the bathroom four times before the middle of the day, easily. And if she uses the bathroom four times, she could be sentenced to life in prison. And so this is the unreal situation facing transgender women in the state of Idaho right now. And these are brand new laws that were just passed recently. And these laws reflect this propaganda. And it's a propaganda of what happens when you tell something about the other side that's not true. So when you spread a lie about some other people, when you say that Mexican immigrants are coming to take your jobs, when you say that Mexicans are rapists, when you say that Venezuelans are drug dealers, when you say that Puerto Ricans are trash, you're setting up, you're creating propaganda that is going to be used as a tool for justifying the detention, the beating, the murdering, the disappearing, the expulsion, and the theft of resources from people who are completely vulnerable, and in most cases are contributing members of the communities that they're kidnapped from. And the United States itself has committed so many crimes. Just in this year, 2026, they've committed so many crimes. in the name of Moloch. Moloch is exactly what it is. So again, here in the Torah, there never was any Moloch, and there probably wasn't child sacrifice. I mean, there's some evidence of child sacrifice in the ancient world, but not much. And but this is being the story is being told in order to equate it with all of these other practices that the redactors of this part of the Torah want to present as abhorrent, such as having sex with a menstruating woman, a man having sex with a man, or bestiality. So those are all put into the same kind of categories. And the thing is, I mean, men were having sex with men going way back in time, and there were some cultures where it was considered to be a genuine expression of affection. Namely, in the recent record of the ancient world in Greek culture, and later in Roman culture, homosexuality was tolerated or even celebrated. And so, because we know that the Hasmoneans and the Maccabees were pushing so hard against Hellenization, that may have been something that they saw here. But the other thing that they're really trying to do is that they're really trying to get control over the centralization of religious worship for Jews. And it's interesting because part of what the Hasmoneans do here is they create a text that is so flawed and so strong and so um, specific in terms of its requirements that it accomplishes its goal. It becomes a document for religious nationalism, but it also kind of becomes a way of creating a place marker on this uneasy tension, which exists for hundreds, if not thousands of years between the desire to centralize a Jewish experience and the real decentralized nature of how people observe religions. So there's if you have a religion where there's some parts of the religion that are widely practiced, but there are other parts that are wildly divergent based on location and local custom. Within this text, it's considered bad. It's considered, the text starts by the entire reason that this ritual of Yom Kippur exists is because the sons didn't light the fire in the ritually prescribed way. And since they didn't light the fire in the ritually prescribed way, they were murdered by the deity. And so part of what that's trying to do is it's trying to get across the idea that there has to be some centralized norm that has to be followed by everyone. And so it's compelling a certain kind of religious obedience and a very specific kind of religious obedience as compared to other sorts of religious obediences. Um, Now, in the modern era, what reform and reconstruction movements have done is they've kind of dropped all of this. And they've said, well, this is kind of like this is reading an ancient document. It's reading an artifact from the past. And we have, um, you know, our own ethical standards that evolve over time. And we all can kind of agree on what they are. And those are our ethical standards today. And that's part of how we get a reform and a reconstructionist movement that allows a transgender woman such as myself, an atheist too, to actually be part of their community because they've basically decided to say, well, we get some of our ethics from the Torah, especially the really good parts, like treat the stranger in your community with kindness because you were once a stranger too. Or parts about like treat your neighbor as yourself. That's a good one. Some of these really profound parts of the Torah that are intermingled between bestiality and um, menstruation, are really beautiful, and they're very moving, and they're always retained as examples of kind of the best of Jewish identity and Jewish experience. Well, I've said a lot. I think I've covered most of the things that I wanted to say. Um, there's always more, but um, this is let's read some more of the text. We've read quite a bit. Um, the priest who has been anointed and shall be a Sabbath of you for all time. Bull of purgation offering. Um, this shall be a law for you for all time. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall practice self-denial. You shall do no manner of work, neither the citizen nor the alien who resides among you. So, from an atheist perspective, here we are. Okay, so we're centralizing time. So you have to say that it has to be on this specific day. It can't vary. So it's really concerned with centralizing the time in which the ritual happens. And then it's also engaging your body by telling you that you shall practice self-denial, which basically means that you don't eat all day. And just like with any other religion, like with any other ritual, I mean, having this shared communal ritual creates a sense of in-group, out-group identity. So anyone who's on the in-group, who's practicing the self-denial that's instructed in the Parsha, they feel a sense of belonging. And so later, when everybody's not practicing self-denial, they know who to talk to. And then it says, this matters for both the citizen and the alien who resides among you. So that's basically saying that even if you don't believe in this, even if you're not part of it, you still have to practice it anyways because you're in the land. And of course, that's like super problematic. And it's just plain wrong. I mean, there should be no reason why somebody should have to practice your ritual if it's not what they believe in. Anyways, 1852. Oh gosh, I'm almost out of time. I've got maybe 3 or 4 minutes left, so I can't read much more. I'm gonna miss reading all the sex stuff, but um I've already had a chance to talk to you about it, so. It shall be a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you shall practice self-denial. It is a law for all time. The priest who has been anointed and obtained to serve as priest in place of his father shall make expiation. He shall put on linen vestments, the sacral vestments. He shall purge the innermost shrine, purge the tent of meeting. The altar he shall make expiation for the priests and for all the people of the congregation. This shall be a law to you for all time to make atonement for the Israelites and for all their sins once a year. And Moses did as God commanded. So, with like the last 3 minutes, I just want to talk about the concept of sin because, as atheists, I mean, I want to talk about it I think people already know what it means from a religious perspective, but I want to talk about it from an atheist perspective because I feel like sin is one of the biggest problems in terms of how religions control and manipulate people is they tell them that they have these things called sins that they have to cleanse themselves of. And, I mean, atheists, I think, like most secular people or maybe scientific people would say that people have behaviors. I mean, we have behaviors, and your behavior is something that is part of your experience as a human being. And your behavior isn't necessarily, it's really not related to ideas of sin. It's simply your behavior. It's your experience of the world. And there are really complicated reasons for why people do things like why they lie, why they steal, why they cheat, why people commit murder, why people do all sorts of things that are considered sins. And there are really complicated reasons why people do that. And each one is really different, each one is unique, and you kind of have to unpack them and really decide, first of all, how much control do people have over their own lives and their own choices? And then two, like once you recognize what a thing is, then how do you name it? Because just calling all of these things carte blanche sin is really convenient for religions, but it's really not that useful for people that are trying to change. So that's all I've got to say for now because I'm out of time. You've been listening to commentary on Parsha Achrei Mot Kedo and also Parsha Kedoshim. My name is Emma, and I'm an atheist, and I'm also a Jew, and I've been on this year-long exploration of the Torah from the perspective of an atheist Jew. So thanks so much for listening to me today, if you happen to listen to this, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.